professor. A couple of blocks away from the professor's home, the barkeeper says he is also not allowed to be in this area. He's too frightened to continue. But he showed the Rebbe how to get to the professor's home. The professor's home was on top of a hill. And the Rebbe, in his writing, says that the hill was extremely slippery. And he had to crawl on all fours till he got to the top. It was icy and steep. Finally, he got to the top. He knocked on the door. The man opened up the door, and he fainted. The Rebbe picked him up, and he said, I don't understand how a father could send an only son to this place. For you see, I have man-eating dogs that are trained to tear a person from limb to limb. And how did you get here? I don't understand. The Rebbe answered, a Jew is not afraid of a dog. A dog is afraid of a Jew. And they immediately talked about Stalipin. He said, I know what you want, but Stalipin hates Jews. That's why I avoided to talk to you, because there's nothing that I can do. So the Rebbe says, I don't want you to do anything. I want you to get me a key to his office with a card saying that the bearer of the card has the right to come into the office grounds anytime he wants. That card the professor had, the key he didn't have. He had to get a key for Stalipin's office, so the next Monday he goes to Stalipin. He says, Sir, he says, yes, I'm quitting. Why are you quitting? Haven't I treated you well? Haven't I paid you well? He said, that's not the point. The point is that you don't trust me. So what do you mean I don't trust you? You have access to everything that I do. I discuss everything with you. He says, yes, but I can't get in and out of the office without the secretary. I think I'd rather go to a place which trusts me. Oh, he said, that's what you want. You want a key? You get the key today, no problem. And the key was made for the advisor, and a copy the next day was made for the Lubavitcher Rebbe's son, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak. The next question is how is the Rebbe going to use this key? When is he going to come? Well, Stalipin had the drafts of the legislation passed on Friday, and on Monday morning, the next Monday morning, Stalipin was going to sign those enactments to restrict Jewish livelihood to an extreme. And this would cause untold destruction in the livelihood in the back of all Jewish industries and Jewish craftsmen. He relished the thought. So the Rebbe had only 48 hours to act. What did he do? Saturday night, Motzei Shabbos, Russians are notorious for getting drunk. Sunday morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, saw the Rebbe going out into the government areas. There was one guard or so. The Rebbe flashed his card. Man looked at it, nodded, let the Rebbe go. The Rebbe had the keys to every door, including the door to Stalipin's office. Opened up the doors to the government offices, got into Stalipin's office, and he found the legislation that Stalipin was going to enact against the Jews. In those days, the officials had 3 piles. They had a pile for legislation to be reviewed. On one side, he had a pile that he had signed, and the other side a pile that he had written invalid, stamped invalid, and rejected. The Rebbe took the pile of papers that was sitting on his desk that dealt directly with the Jews and stamped each one of them invalid and put the legislation in the invalid pile. The Rebbe then turned, closed the office, walked out the door. Stalipin's secretary would come an hour before her boss and would take care of all the things that had to be taken care of. One of which was the tidying up the room and getting rid of the papers that were unnecessary. The papers that had been stamped Friday invalid, she took into the Russian archives and threw them away. Stalipin came at 10 a.m. that morning, ready to sign the anti-Jewish enactments. To his shock and dismay, they weren't there. He realized they must have inadvertently been put into the invalid pile, and the secretary, not realizing that, had thrown them away. It took Stalipin months to be able to recreate those enactments. But for those months, perhaps a year, the Jewish community in Greater Russia was relieved of the anti-Semitic enactments through the boldness and courage of a 21-year-old Hasidic Jew by the name of Joseph Isaac Schneerson, who became the sixth